Listen to this. This is a fictional example. Tell me what you think. Hi, my name is Deborah. I've always been passionate about leadership ever since I could remember. In primary school, I volunteered for several leadership roles. I also participated in several activities such as the drama club, the music festival, and I got a lot of certificates for my participation. I'm also passionate about volunteering. I've volunteered in so many activities. My teachers were always proud of my success. I have excellent communication skills, and I'm also a team player, and I work well under pressure. No. Hello lovelies, welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about personal statements. The good, the bad, and the rubbish. And I'm going to give examples at the end once I've talked about what makes a personal statement good versus what makes a personal statement bad or even worse. So let's go through the steps of what you need to consider when you're creating a personal statement. So number one, you have to be organized. Personal statements comprise of 5 key parts, and I like to organize this into 5 key paragraphs. And these paragraphs are as follows. The first one should have your background information, so this is your educational background. You can include at this point your work experience as well, or you can include it in your second paragraph, because your second paragraph will detail your research experience and skill set. So at this point, you can talk about jobs that you've done in the past and how these have helped to boost your skill set and what you're doing at present. All right. The third paragraph should include your current research interests. What makes you want to wake up in the morning? The fourth paragraph talks about your short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals are immediate. What do you want to do, for example, after you finish your degree? It could be you're doing a master's degree, so your short-term goal could be pursuing a PhD. If you're doing a PhD, a short-term goal could be doing a postdoctoral fellowship, for example. Long-term goals are more like 5-year plans to 10-year plans. So this could include, for example, applying for bigger grants that can allow you to transition from an early career to a mid-level researcher all the way to a recognized research leader. All right, the final paragraph here, you can talk about really why you chose a particular course at a university and why you chose that university. So this is a basic personal statement. Each university will have sort of pointers to give you direction as to what they want you to include. Okay, so that's number one, be organized. Number two, you have to be specific. You have to be very specific. So if you're talking about your experiences, for example, you're saying you have excellent communication skills, talk about examples that show that you have excellent communication skills. So are there opportunities that you had at your workplace or during your undergraduate or master's course that showcase the skills? Talk about them. Let's say you worked for an NGO somewhere in Kenya and it's an international NGO. Name the international NGO. Name the position you're employed at. So if you're an intern, if you're a research assistant, a research associate, talk about that. And then talk about some of the responsibilities you're given. For example, if you are presenting at seminars, at conferences during that time, say the name of the conference or the seminar and what you presented and the skills you acquired. Be very specific. That's number 2. Number 3, don't be too modest. Don't be afraid to showcase, your accomplishments. So when I say this, what I mean is that if you won a competition, for example, you presented a poster and you are the best presenter, or you are a master's student and there was a competition and you are the best speaker at that conference, say that. Say you were selected as the best speaker at a conference, or if you won a large grant, talk about the grant and even the amount. If it was a grant worth $50,000 that you applied for and got, talk about the grant, say who the funder was, the name of the grant, and how much you're given. So don't be too modest and say, oh, I have received several well-funded grants. Well-funded, what do you mean by well-funded? How much was it? So don't be too modest. Talk about your accomplishments. Number 4, don't tell, show. So many times students are usually tempted just to say, I have excellent communication skills, I have excellent leadership skills, I work well under pressure. But it's not just enough to say these things. You have to show us different experiences that have enabled you to showcase these skills. So for example, if you say you have leadership potential, so can you give us examples where you've actually demonstrated your leadership potential? So for example, if you've started an organization or an initiative that does something, let's say you have a tree planting organization or an organization that focuses on environmental conservation, tell us the name of the initiative. Say, I founded an initiative called ABC that focuses on environmental conservation by training the public on how to plant trees and how to conserve the environment. And we've worked with several schools such as 123. So this way, you're not just telling us you have leadership potential, you're showing us the leadership potential that you have. So show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Okay? Or even if you tell, show it after. All right. And the final one is number 5, precision. So here, when I say precision, is that you have a limited word count. Make use of it. So most of the time, you find that personal statements range between 500 words to 1,000 words. You have a limited amount of words to use. So be precise. If you have several examples that have demonstrated your leadership potential, your communication skills, your ability to volunteer for different activities, then be precise and make sure you're using your word count well. Because remember, part of your personal statement, you talk about your educational background as well as your research experience. There are parts that will talk about your short-term and long-term goals. So you have a very small window to talk about how you demonstrate your leadership potential, your communication skills, your teamwork skills. So be precise, go straight to the point, avoid a lot of stories, all right? So now that we've covered that, I'm going to give examples of the good, the bad, and the rubbish. And we're going to start with the rubbish. So what do I mean when I say this? What is a really, really, really bad example? Let's have a look. Let's start with an example of a very, very bad essay. And we're going to use the Chevening Scholarship Essays as a way to look at examples of what you might be expected to write and how you should write a good essay. But first, let's start with the very, very bad ones. All right, so here, amongst the Chevening essays, there are usually 4, and one of the essays that they ask is about networking. And the question is, Chevening is looking for individuals with strong professional relationship building skills who will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. So they ask, please explain how you would build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity using clear examples of how you currently do this and outline how you hope to use the skills in the future. So this is the first answer here. And before we look at the first answer, what I always want you to do when you're looking at essay questions is to divide the question into parts, because it's one question, but it has different parts. In the first part, they say, please explain how you build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity. This is part 1. Yeah? And part 2, they ask, using clear examples of how you currently do this. So this essentially could be the same question, how you build relationships and with examples of how you currently do this. So I'll highlight in yellow. And then they also say, and outline how you hope to use these skills in future. So that is the sort of 2-part question. All right, let's clear those highlights and then look at the very, very bad answer. Let's read through. So this candidate says, I have strong professional relationship building skills and will engage with the Chevening community and influence and lead others in their chosen profession. Number 1, when you read that sentence, you immediately know they've just taken the question and repeated the question within their answer. So it's not really answering anything. And then the candidate continues and says, I have excellent leadership skills and I have volunteered for several organizations after finishing my university degree. So they say they have leadership skills, but they don't talk about what the skills are. Candidate says they volunteered for several organizations, not naming any organization here, after finishing their university degree. The university degree here is also not mentioned, but we're assuming maybe you've mentioned it in a previous essay, so you don't want to repeat, that's okay. But you can see how ambiguous this sentence is. And then the candidate goes on and says, I think leadership is important because leaders make a difference in the community by impacting the lives of people. This is important because it is always noble to do something positive in your community. Yes, we agree, but are they answering the question? And then if you look at the second paragraph, I build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity by keeping in touch with everyone from my network. Who? Which everyone? Which network? It's not very clear. And then the candidate goes on and says, it's important to stay in touch with people in your network because it enhances and deepens personal and professional connections. So one key thing I want to say about the second paragraph is that it's just as ambiguous as the first one. Everything here is not solid, really. There are no examples to support what the candidate is talking about. And then the last part where the question asks us to outline how you hope to use these skills in future. They say, I hope to use these skills to create networking opportunities with Chevening scholars. I also hope to attend other events organized by the funders to meet fellow scholars from other countries. This is an answer that you can give to a Chevening essay question, but this is really, really a bad example. And now I want to show you what a good example looks at. But before we move on, key things that I've mentioned here are the fact that there are no concrete examples, no organizations have been mentioned here, and there are no specific examples that can be used to support what the candidate is claiming they have in terms of skills and in terms of relationship building capacity. So it's really very ambiguous, and really this is a very, very bad example, something that you shouldn't submit, especially for a scholarship as prestigious as the Chevening. All right, so that was pretty rubbish as it comes. So what would be an example of a bad one? So something in the middle. Somewhere where a student has attempted to write a good personal statement, but they're not there yet. Let's have a look. So we had a look at the very, very bad example that shouldn't even appear within your application when you're trying the Chevening scholarship. So now we're going to look at the second category, which is not good enough, trying but not good enough. Now let's look at this answer. So this is from a candidate that did a pretty decent job in trying to draft an answer to this question, but needed a bit of help to fine-tune it. So let's read it. So the candidate says, deliberate investment and accumulation of social capital plays a critical role in unlocking unprecedented realms of professional and personal development. As a professional in the development sector, professional relationship building and maintaining remains an underrated skill. Okay, just from the word go, you can you already see the problem with this answer? The problem is that the candidate has talked about what they feel professional relationship building means, but they're not getting straight to the point. This is an attempt to kind of move around in circles, and it won't get you there very fast, and you'll end up using a lot of the words that you've been allocated without really giving the panel what they want. And in the second paragraph here, the candidate says the first way of building professional relationships is through collaboration. This basically entails working together with people from diverse backgrounds and talents to design new projects around communities of practice. Yes, this is good. Yes, definitely. A professional relationship building works through collaboration, and that means you work with people from diverse backgrounds. But there's a problem here. Can you see it? Yes, we talk about relationship buildings with diverse people from diverse backgrounds without giving an actual example of where these collaborations have been made or where the candidate has made such collaborations. And they continue by saying collaborations have proven useful in enhancing and deepening personal and professional connections as it allows the collaborators to become vulnerable with each other and experience failures while also sharing resources and credit for success achieved. Yes, that is true. The candidate is explaining the importance of collaboration, but still, we've still not seen an example. Remember chevening us, please explain how you build and maintain relationships in a professional capacity, using clear examples of how you currently do this. So they want you to start by saying, what are you doing to build relationships? How do you do it? What example? Who have you built collaborations with, and how did you do it? That's what they want, not an explanation of why collaborations are important, all right? And then they go on and say, in my current professional work, I've used collaboration as a resource mobilization tool by forming collaborative alliances with other like-minded organizations around common thematic areas. Okay, yes, this is good because now the candidate is talking about what they've done, but they're not being specific. Which like-minded organizations? Which common thematic areas? What are you really talking about in terms of the collaborative alliances that you've made? Can you name them? Can you list them? You need to be very specific. Okay? And then as you go on here, the candidate says, the collaborative grant writing endeavors have enabled us to secure funding which we are currently implementing. This is very good. And I highlighted this for the candidate. I said, yes, it's good that you got funding, but it's still ambiguous. Which funding did you get? How much money was it? Which organization funded you? And who were some of your collaborative partners? So these have to be very clear and very specific. This really elaborates why this is better than a rubbish essay, but it's still not there yet. It's not good enough, but it's a much, much better example of where I would like to see students starting from. Yes, that was a better attempt than the rubbish one, but it's still not there yet. So, what would a good example look like? Let's have a look at this. This is a good example or an example of a good essay. So, this is still the same candidate that gave us the not very good example. So, after having a chat with him, he was able to correct and improve his essay. So, let's have a look at it. So it starts off by saying, in my current professional work, I have used collaboration and partnerships as a resource mobilization tool by forming collaborative alliances with like-minded organizations. In 2022, my organization, ABC, formed a collaborative alliance known as the dash dash with organization B and organization C to apply for a grant amounting to $10,000 from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this is a different amount, and also the funder is different. I've edited these, and these are fictional inputs here just to conceal identity. So amounting to $10,000 from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Immediately, I can see this is a much better sentence. Instead of just saying, I've gotten funding from several organizations, international organizations, and worked with collaborative partners. That's just ambiguous. Instead of saying that, the candidate has gotten straight to the point and mentioned how much they got, $10,000, from which organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and which collaborative alliance that was formed, the name of the alliance, as well as the names of the collaborative partners. This looks real, this looks legit, and definitely we can go and Google and find out if these organizations are real and if they were actually funded, because most of the time you'll find this information in the organizational website. So this is already much, much better, more specific, and less ambiguous. All right. The candidate goes on and says, the project was addressing gender-based violence against women and girls in Dash County. Each of the partnering organizations led specific project objectives. So this is good because he's talking about the theme that he was addressing as well as the location where the project was based. Then it goes on and says, my organization conducted sexual reproductive health rights training in 18 schools. So you can see he's very specific about the number of schools that they visited and conducted training in. And then it says, our partner organization trained 50 young men and women on digital skills to create safe spaces online, thus helping in reporting cases of gender-based violence. So again, you can see this is very good because the number of people who've been impacted has been listed, as well as the type of training that they got. Then it also says Organization C spearheaded training on gender-based violence amongst teenagers using, let's read that, using sports. All right, so you can see is listing exactly what each organization did, how they collaborated, and this way is explaining examples of how he builds and maintains relationships in a professional capacity. This is very good. Again, in the last sentence here, it says, due to our success, our alliance was seconded by dash 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 at the Dash Embassy in Kenya to implement and lead the Dash Festival 2024. So you can see, aside from just talking about how he builds and maintains relationships, he also talks about some of the impact of his activity. So what has been the impact of this kind of relationship building in the professional capacity? So that's it, guys. So if you started writing a personal statement, remember the points that we talked about. Be organized, be specific, don't be too modest, and show, don't tell, and also be very precise and be aware of the word count. So that's it for this video, and please remember to subscribe, turn on your notification bell, share, like, and comment, and please let me know what you'd like me to cover in future videos, and I'll try to make relevant content to address that topic. So bye bye for now.